Hey there, guys.
Hey, everybody.
This is Rita.
This is Amanda.
And you're listening to
I Don't Know Her, the podcast where we talk about women you've probably never heard of.
But you should have.
And now you will. Kind of.
Yeah? That's the goal?
So today is the official mark of our 50th episode.
Woohoo!
How do you feel about that?
50 motherfucking episodes.
That's a lot, right?
That's a
It
lot.
feels like a lot.
It's a lot of talking and a lot of research
I
and
mean,
a lot of hard work.
Yeah. If you think about every single episode was at least 1 hour of recording
Mm-hmm.
and probably at least 2 hours of editing.
Yeah, 1.5, 2 hours. Ending.
Oh, Amanda, who is this person in the room?
Oh my God. Are you all jolted awake? This is the infamous Lucas.
McIntyre.
Hi.
He's real talkative today. So Lucas is here to celebrate our 50th episode. I was going to say 50th anniversary. That is not it.
That's coming later.
That's true. We're going to be doing this when we're old and decrepit. But Lucas is here because we're going to do something different and special for our 50th.
We're mixing it up.
So I don't really actually know entirely what Lucas is going to do today. We came up with this idea. Actually, it's totally Rita's idea.
Of course.
She was like, what if we do this like quiz show type situation? And I was like, that's great. So I was like, but it has to be, we thought initially we would try to get you all who are listening to come up with questions for us, but it turned out we needed to come up with that faster than we would probably get through the social media. So we put Lucas in charge of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not entirely sure what he's got in store for us.
And I feel like that's kind of what we always do because for those who've been listening, we don't know who we're bringing to the table
That's right.
every episode. So this is a whole new, we don't know what the heck's going to happen. So,
All right, Lucas, you're on.
Okay, they should be pretty easy. It's all about stuff, people that you've already covered and researched. It's just sort of a reminder. I think almost everybody is from season 1, though, because that's farther back, so it's harder.
oh my God, I'm going to do so bad.
I know. I'm like, oh
Well,
no, we're going to
it sort of
embarrass ourselves.
alternates. So it's generally, it'll be like one question about somebody Amanda covered, and then one question about somebody you covered. I feel like I'll just ask the person who covered them and then give the other person an option to steal.
So it is a competition.
Not really.
It
It's
is not a competition.
I can't
Everything
make it.
is not a competition, Amanda.
I really want to.
Can we just crown her the winner right now? Because she...
I almost said we could crown her queen, but that's got a bad connotation around here now.
It's okay.
so-
I'll take that.
Yeah.
I know it's got a bad connotation.
Also, I've spent the last week when I'm sitting around, because usually if I'm hanging around at home, I have a guitar in hand. I'm going to come up with an audio tag for the Queen of Caucasia. That is my goal. I want to make that happen so bad.
Yeah, we got to do that.
do that.
Yeah. I feel like that's come up on the show enough that it really should have its own.
I think it's going to be a regularly occurring segment because it's been funny.
It has been. And
enlightening.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the unfortunate part about it.
Yes.
But it provides new content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so our first question, our first I Don't Know Her Stump the Host question, goes all the way back to episode 1.
Mm.
And the question is, who played Shirley Muldowney in 1983's Heart Like a Wheel?
Bobby Bedelia.
You were right on that.
I was, because after that is when we watched Die Hard for the very first time.
Oh.
Yeah, Abby and I had never seen it, and so we decided to watch it for Christmas. And I was like, oh, that's who Bonnie Bedelia is. I know who she is. And then I've never gotten it out of my head.
Do you remember who Shirley wanted to play her in the movie?
The actress from Halloween. What is her name?
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
That is correct.
I
Yes.
kind of knew that.
Yeah, that was definitely an assist.
Yeah,
That was.
yeah.
That was.
Right. You know, in basketball, your assists is almost a more important score than your
Yeah,
points and
special.
rebounds. So
I'm really special.
that is the only thing I know about basketball. Yeah. So that is correct. All right. Good job. And our second question goes to Rita. name one of the companies that Berta Zerón de Garcia worked for before she became a pilot.
Oh, she worked for a phone company. I can't remember. Amanda, do you know? Because she had a lot of jobs.
Something Telefono, right?
Yeah. Didn't she work for a telephone company?
Sort of.
Sort of.
And maybe actually, but there were two like really famous, well-known.
Oh, I can't remember. But you know, it wasn't my girl. So
I don't know.
Way to pass the buck on that one.
I know. That's an assist that fucking tripped me.
I don't play team sports.
She did work for Ericsson, which is a company that later made mobile phones.
Yes.
And the other well-known one was Canada Dry.
There we go. Canada Dry. I was like, Culligan?
The Culligan man.
I know Canada Dry, as a sober person, is near and dear to my heart. So, and next, what tribe did Lozen belong to?
She was a Chiricahua Apache.
That is correct. It looks like Cheyenne Chiricahua Apache, but the Cheyenne spelled way different than you normally think of it.
Really?
Yeah, Chihenenne.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, more like Chihuahua.
Yeah.
Which is regionally makes sense. I had a follow-up question just in case. You know where she died?
Oh. I remember that it was basically in jail, in prison. Oh my God, I can't remember. At a fort. She was at a fort, right?
I'll give you a hint. Jeff Sessions.
Alabama.
That's right.
And they wouldn't let her body come home.
Yeah, that's right.
And so she's in an unmarked grave, and it's the worst.
Yes. She died of tuberculosis June 17th, 1889 in Mount Vernon Barracks in Alabama, which was apparently where a number of notable natives met their untimely end. All right.
Bastards.
Bastards. Rita, you ready? Are you psyched?
I'm ready.
Pumped? Yeah. Have you mentally been going through the list of everyone that you have covered?
Sure.
All right. Before deciding on Caress, what was a name Polly Crosby considered using?
Oh gosh, she had so many dumb names.
That was
she was the one who invented the brassiere. Remember, she had that wild, crazy life.
She was wild.
There was one that kind of sounded similar to clitoris.
That is correct. It was clitoris, but it's spelled Clytoris.
I did not remember that, and it's brilliant.
I know.
You know, if I ever become a pilot, that's going to be my handle for my call name.
See, now I want to start a fucking feminist punk band and call it that.
Clitoris.
But spelled that way. CLY, you said?
Yes, Clytoris.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
It's clitoris.
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 Womp womp.
Although with the CLY, that's like Clydesdale horses. I don't know why I went there. It's just where my brain went.
The whole thing reminds me of Cloris Leachman for some reason. And I don't like exactly the image of Cloris Leachman mixed up with genitalia. It's just...
You know what's funny about that word is that I was a big Seinfeld fan when I was probably 11, 12 years old. That's about the heyday of it was how old I was. And I watched it every single Thursday night on the phone with my best friend.
Oh, geez.
She would watch it at her house. I would watch it at my house. We would be on the phone. And I'll never forget the episode where Jerry forgot the name of the girl he was dating.
He called her Mulva.
And he knew that her name rhymed with a female body part. And so he just kept going through all of the female body parts. And I remember as she's walking out the door, him going, Mulva? And I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what the rhyme word was. I was like, what does Mulva mean?
But then when he finds out that her name is Dolores, I still didn't know.
I didn't
was like,
either.
What do I have on my body that rhymes with Dolores?
I was like, I gotta go figure this out. I went to the dictionary. I was like, what are these things? So, in short, a paper. Seinfeld taught me about my vagina.
Wow. Can that be a one person recited poem?
Maybe I'll make it into a good slam poem.
I was going to say that is begging for a performance piece.
Absolutely. I highly 100% agree with this.
Maybe a comedic essay.
There you go.
Yes. All right, back to you, Amanda. How old was Fulan Devi when she was matched in an arranged marriage?
Oh, God, she was super young. 13?
She was 11?
She was 11.
Oh, gross. It's worse.
It's worse. Yes, to a man 3 times her age.
Oh, that was disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a fascinating story, though. She was one of my faves.
Yeah, whenever I think about doing complicated women,
Mm-hmm.
I think about Fulan Devi.
Yeah.
Because I was really looking for like a criminal. That's what I wanted. And then when I came across her story, I was like, she was a criminal, but I don't think I mind. Everybody who she, sort of was orchestrating their death was definitely deserving of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I like revenge fantasies, though.
She does.
All right, back to Rita. And this one is a gimme. Like, it's such a gimme. And I knew it when I wrote it, but it's also fun. So, what is the name of the cocktail Ada Coleman is credited with inventing?
A hanky panky.
Yes. And what's in it?
Ooh, dash of Fernet. There is it bourbon? No. What is in there? I remember the Fernet because I brought over a jar of Fernet
Disgusting.
when we made it.
I was going to say, I was like, we just had these on Christmas.
At Christmas.
Yeah. In honor.
In honor of her, yes. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I know there's the Orange Express on there.
Mhm.
It's served up.
I believe it's gin and Fernet.
Gin, vermouth, and Fernet.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Because I made them.
She did, and she made them really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did. I did a good job. And everybody ordered one.
Yeah.
At the cocktail party. I was like, really? Did you guys hear us talk about how... Did you see our faces when we drank it? Like, it's a tough cocktail.
It is.
But everybody
big one.
ordered one, and I guess they liked it. So
Yeah. I thought they were good.
I thought they were pretty good the second time around. That first time when we were having them for the video, I was like, I don't think I can ever drink this. But I was also really hungover that day. It didn't help.
Oh, man, a gin, vermouth, and Fernet cocktail when you're hungover, that's the last thing.
That's the last thing you want.
At like 11 in the morning.
Oh,
it was
no,
not pretty.
No, I would not have.
Yeah, it was early.
It was not good. And that was our first foray into YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get
Was it-
better. We'll do more.
I was like, is that the only foray into YouTube so far?
Yeah, so
I
far.
think so.
We've talked about filming our episodes, but we like to show up in our
Jammies.
sweats and stuff. So
That could be like a whole identity thing, though. Like, look, you can do this in your pajamas. Everybody should have a podcast.
everybody does have a podcast.
I was gonna say, I often think about. I read a thing a while back, and I can't remember where it said that the podcast is the lower back tattoo of our era.
Oh.
Everybody's got one, and you're probably going to regret it later. Yeah.
I don't think we'll regret ours.
No regret.
No.
Ours
Yes.
is solid.
Yes.
It is solid. It is solid. 42. Well, by the time I edit this one, 42 episodes with me in it. Yeah, I would say it's definitely solid.
He's assisting himself over here.
I know.
Yeah.
There's no lack of confidence in this room.
Right. So the next one is not a question like a trivia, but I wanted to ask each of you, what woman that you covered has most resonated with you?
It's hard to pick just one.
It is.
Gosh, who do I think about the most? There are a couple of them that I think about a lot. I definitely, for whatever reason, even though I've never climbed a mountain in my life,
Mm-hmm.
Junko Tabe's story has always really stuck with me. I think because I like that she sets goals for herself, and they're for herself, but not for other people. And then she meets those goals and then creates a new goal for herself to meet, so that she's continuously working towards something because I have a tendency, when I don't do that for myself, I have a tendency to spiral into darkness. And it's for me, that's the only way to stay above water, is if I'm continuously reaching for something I haven't done yet, that I haven't met yet. And I really resonated with that story because of that.
I think for me, it was Dolores Huerta. She's just always been a hero of mine. And I knew covering her, I know a lot of people probably know who she is, but I wanted to do it anyway. And I did find a lot of information that I didn't even know about her myself. But she's done a lot for the Latino people. That has the fingers of that work that she's doing, that she's still doing, has affected my people and people in my own family. And the work that she did, the sacrifice that she made, the husbands that she ran through because she couldn't commit herself to another person because she committed herself to everybody else. And all the kids that she raised too, and still working all those multiple jobs. I mean, that shit is hard. And to still be able to do that, she's still doing that. She just got arrested a little while ago for, she was holding a demonstration about these kids in cages right now. So she resonates pretty deep with me.
What about you? Which one that you've listened to has stuck with you?
A few of them presently, like I was just thinking about this today because it's going to come up in a minute. But I am sort of like you have to have a goal or you don't spiral out. My buddy Casey and I are planning a bicycle trip down the Oregon coast in June. And like booking campsites, planning like we're actually going to do this thing.
Nice.
And I really, yeah. I'm like, all right, 350 miles over 5 days. Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. So that one, and then also I can't remember her name, but she was a motorcycle.
Bessie Stringfield?
I think so. It's sort of also like a bullshit artist. Like,
yeah, that was Bessie.
Yeah. And I really,
Springfield. As
somebody who moved out west 20 years ago and sort of reinvented themselves a little bit, I kind of, those sort of stick with me. It's like you never have to accept that you are all of the things that you were born to or that you were raised to. You can, you can pick up and go somewhere else and you can start over.
Nah,
and not necessarily nefariously or, maliciously, but like just like, hey, I don't have to have everybody in town know that I was that person. So
yeah, I appreciate that too. Actually, I've been thinking about this as a topic for an essay at some point. But when I was going to high school and even just younger than that, I lived in this really small town and everybody knew who I was and they knew me backwards and forwards, or so they thought. And I always felt very stifled and trapped by that. And I always thought like, oh, well, I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to do something great and they're all going to remember me as that. Like I'm going to do this new thing. And a couple years ago, I went back for a friend's wedding and no one even remembered me.
Ooh.
And that was just sort of jarring in a way that I just didn't expect. Like I thought they would always remember me because I still remember them. And then I started really thinking about like, well, I'm clearly doing a lot more work holding on to them than they are holding on to me. And I really have to do some work exploring why that is. What is it that I'm still holding on to back home?
That's a wonderful revelation.
I don't know if it's wonderful so much as tortured, but
yeah, well, I think you hang on to your past because and I know we both had pretty gnarly childhoods. Call mine best childhood ever -TM. Like, and that it occupies a lot bigger place in your own story than it does in other people's.
Yeah, so. For sure.
But whatever fuels your fire, man. Okay, back to regular ass questions. Amanda, what beer is made with a recipe first developed by Susanna Olan?
We were just talking about this on a previous episode.
We were.
It's moose jaw, moose something. It's not moose drool. I know that. 'Cause
Yes.
that's made by Big Sky. It's the. I can see the logo.
Yeah, there's moose in it. I know that.
Yeah.
The word moose.
Is it moose jaw? Moose head.
Moose
head.
Yes.
Like I knew it was a part. It's a skull part of the moose. Yeah, moose jaw out of
Moose head.
or moose head. Yeah, moose head. Moose jaw is a place in Canada.
Yes.
Moose head is the beer,
Right.
and that was the brewery Oland and Sons. What's it called now, though? I can't remember.
Oh, I can't remember that. No.
Yeah,
How deep do you think I dived into Wikipedia to do this? Like, not that deep.
we should have just shared all our notes with you.
I still would have gone for the 30,000-foot Wikipedia version of the story. Yeah. Rita, what racist term was used against Kailani, Princess of Hawaii?
Oh, what did they call her? I forget.
I am not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
I didn't know if you remembered specifically.
I am not going to be crowned the queen today.
This was when she went abroad, correct? It was when she went abroad, and then people were calling her.
Were they exotic?
I don't remember.
I just did the thing. I just did it. I'm going to leave that in too. But here's a noise, people who are listening, that drives me insane, and it is. And yeah. All right.
It's hard not to do.
Yes, apparently. Anyway, I hate that noise. Moving along. The word they used was dusky.
Oh.
Because her father was Scottish. And it was the people who were trying to get Hawaii to become part of the United States. Mm-hmm. They were like, she can't speak for you because she's not one of us.
Yeah, she doesn't look like you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, what name did local Native Americans give Stagecoach Mary Fields?
Oh, didn't they call her Black Mary? And also something else. Oh, I can't remember what it was. I think they called her Black Mary, and then there was something else.
They called her White Crow because she looked like a black woman but acted like a white woman.
That was the natives, the Native Americans in the area. Yeah,
right.
That's right, White Crow. What an interesting...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Well, I was one of the things that I find interesting about the podcast itself is that while it's nominally about women specifically, like issues of race, and especially how that contributes to how noted a person's legacy is, play into the stories. That also fascinates me. I was like, I don't think that was an intentional thing, but it comes up so often. It's like, hey, there's this person, and if she was a white lady, you would probably know who she was.
Yeah, like Anna Mae Wong.
Yeah.
Like her story is, upsetting because like literally the only reason she isn't more famous is because she wasn't white. Mm-hmm. Like that's pretty shitty.
Yeah. Next we have for Rita, how much was Mata Hari offered to seduce Crown Prince Wilhelm and return information to French authorities?
Wasn't she offered it was in the thousands, wasn't it?
He's giving you no
hints with his face. I don't remember. Was it like 25 or something like that? 25,000?
1 million francs.
1 million francs.
And how much is that in today dollars?
And you knew that I looked this up. It is $2.79 million US dollars.
Wow.
Which is not actually
not that
big. That tells you how strong the franc was at that time.
Yeah.
That I would have thought, based on other things from that era, that it would have been a much higher number. But
Okay, so I have a question. What would you do for $2.7 million?
Whatever you want, honey.
I know. There's a lot I would probably do.
There was a lot I would probably do.
Is there a better question? Maybe it's what wouldn't you do?
I wouldn't document it on film.
That's a good answer. I'm gonna say same.
yeah, I mean, my limits are
Don't hurt people.
no children or animals. If everybody involves a consenting adult, I don't care.
Yes.
Like, great, let's do this. And for 2.79 million, that's be a lot easier to name what I wouldn't do than what I would. Amanda, Annie Kopchowski was better known as who?
Londonderry Annie Londonderry.
Yes, good job.
Wow, you didn't even phase you.
Did she get the name Londonderry?
Oh gosh. Didn't they think it was because she was from, like, they wanted her to sound like she was Irish instead of Russian?
Wasn't it a brand?
Yes.
Londonderry?
Oh, that's right. It was a
Yeah.
brand of bicycle.
Yeah, she took
No?
It was the Londonderry Lithia Spring Water Company of New Hampshire.
they sponsored her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's still it's not called Londonderry anymore, but the Lithia Spring Water still exists, I think.
Jeez.
Okay, so yeah, I totally remember that.
Yeah.
And then she she's basically like a riding billboard.
Yeah.
I mean, she knew how to get it.
Yeah.
Right. And yet she started off with one bike sponsor, and then in the middle of the ride, staged this whole press event to switch to a different one because it was a lighter, faster bike, which was, they're still using that move today.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's true. She probably, helped coin that.
Yeah.
That's a move.
yeah. Rita, Madam C.J. Walker was called the first female African-American millionaire. How much was her estate at the time of her death?
It was about almost $1 million.
Yeah, it was $600,000, which in 2019 dollars is a little over $9 million.
Ooh.
Woo woo.
So for people at home, my background, I have a degree in economics, so inflation and the real value adjusted for inflation of money is something that fascinates me, and I think is important for people to consider more than they actually do. And while I was looking these numbers up, I saw that in 1919, the median income that I could ascertain via IRS records was $2,500, which was about $38,000 in 2019 dollars. The median income today is $47,000.
Wow.
So in 100 years, the median income has gone up about 10 grand.
That's
Wow.
not great.
No, it's not
a
great.
whole lot.
That's
That
not
is-
great.
That is not at all great.
Speaking of Madam C.J. Walker, the Netflix show about her called Self-Made is premiering Friday, March 20th.
Yay.
On
Yay.
So I hope everybody tunes in and watches that. We'll be promoting it for sure.
And her whole line is available at Sephora.
Good to know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're going to jump right out there and go get it, aren't you?
I'm pretty pasty. I don't know if it's gonna I don't know if I'm in that,
You also have a
in that
beard.
range.
I always
You
find it.
also have a beard.
I've been watching.
That's just because my mom doesn't know yet.
It was a terrible joke.
I know it was.
But
Good thing is I can edit it out.
I always am really fascinated by people who can put on makeup with beards. Like,
Yeah. How do you blend that?
right? Without making the beard look chalky.
Yeah.
They must go back through afterwards
Well,
and fix the beard.
speaking from a person who's very hairy, when I put on makeup, sometimes it gets on my eyebrows. So then I'll just take a towel. I'll just wipe it off.
Yeah.
I would say, couldn't you, and I'm totally spitballing here, couldn't you put just a little Vaseline on the hairline to keep the makeup from sticking?
Maybe.
Yeah, but then I think you'd run into when you're blending, you'd run into the
Yell
problem
Vaseline-y.
of putting the Vaseline then everywhere you put your makeup.
Maybe.
Yeah, if you use a beauty blender like we do.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do his makeup.
That's our next YouTube video.
I'll do it for $2.79 million. Okay, so the next question I have is not related to a person, but I'm going to ask each of you individually.
Oh no.
What is the most challenging thing about the podcast?
Time.
Yeah, time for sure. Although for me, I think the more frustrating thing is like figuring out what we have to do to like really pull in more listeners. That's super difficult because we are not a big media entity. So we don't have a built-in audience. We don't have built-in promotional capabilities and things like that. So everything that we do is done by literally the three of us in this room. And that is taxing and tiring. And we want to be good at what we're doing because we do put so much time in. And so that's, I think for me, the most frustrating thing is like knowing that we want to put out a good product and we want to gain followers, but how do you do that without money? And everything we do currently is coming out of our own pocket. So
time for me, because I've got a lot going on in my life, and especially with the amount of hours that I work and trying to keep up with family time, trying to keep up with, my relationship with my husband, because, we try to do things when we're not with the kids so that we're still building and working on our relationship over here. And then also finding the time to research for this. A lot of the times I'll do it when they're sleeping because I don't want to take that time of myself away from them. So then I'm not sleeping because I'm researching. So it's just time. It's just a juggling everything. And especially what Amanda said, I want to do a good job.
yeah.
So it's making sure to put that time in no matter what.
So because I have there's a lot I don't know about the process, since you guys just send me files and notes and that's sort of where.
Yeah, I
just did it again.
Yep. See, we don't do it very often anymore.
No, I know. I was going to say
It's hard though.
We've gotten better.
Yes. Yeah, you actually you really have. Like these days I'm mostly just listening for I can tell when you've taken your steroid whatever, like you get gurgly.
Yeah, I know. I hate it.
And it drives me nuts. And like
Drives me nuts too. It feels terrible. Feels like I have like something crawling inside me.
Yeah. I know, and
I see her like she's like wiggling in her chair, like trying to straighten up her back because she's all bubble cut.
Yes. So how far out do you start researching? Like, are you guys, because for folks at home, generally they record on Saturdays. And then I'll get the files on Sunday. I typically edit on Monday, unless it's been a Monday. And then I'll edit on Tuesdays, which gives me an incentive to get done in time to watch This Is Us and cry a little, which is my weekly ritual.
That's really funny.
It's totally true though. I'm like, all right, I gotta get this done so I can watch my show. Like, so are you guys, do you like have a big list and you go through and do it here and there and then cherry pick one out each week to go further? Or is it, when you get home from recording or when you're done recording on Saturday, you're, on the Google?
I generally start, so probably Mondays and Tuesdays, and I'll just find my person. I do have like a small list, but sometimes I feel sometimes that those women I'm not ready for that story yet, or we've both hit that. We're like, whoa, that's a lot of information. And I'm going to go with this lady over here because she's a little less complicated. And then I usually take about two days to do everything because I can't do it all in one big chunk because I just can't sit for that long and stare at the computer.
I usually have my list too, and it's pretty long actually. But sometimes I'll go through the list and I'll look at the names that I've had, and I always have to re-Google them. Like, okay, who was this again?
Mm-hmm.
And then I decide, like, I'm not really feeling talking about an athlete, or I'm not really feeling talking about a lawyer. I just talked about one. And then I'll narrow it down from there. And I usually pick out my person and find their sources. Like, I'll find a whole bunch of sources and just like make a huge sheet full of the sources. And then eventually I'll sit down and read all of them at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll sort of like be able to, if I do that in one sitting where I read all of them at once, then I can like figure out which ones are useless and get rid of them.
Because there's a lot of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who just literally lift whole sections from another thing and put it in theirs. And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid in our podcast. And so I don't want to do that.
There's like multiple websites with direct verbiage of all the same thing.
Yes,
on
exactly
all
the same words.
Websites. And I'm like, what the fuck?
So then after I've gotten all of my reading done, I basically have the story up in a cloud in my head. And then I put it down and I'll flip through all of the tabs as I'm writing to pick what I like. Oh yeah, I swear there was something about when she was a little girl, she did this thing, and then I'll find it wherever it is. And it usually takes me, I don't know, like 4 to 5 hours at least of just doing that part. And then the writing part is like another 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'd say typically every woman, it's about 7 to 8 hours for me.
Yeah, I would say 5 to 7.
Okay, so we'll say 6, 8. So we're going to call it 14 in prep hours. Generally 2 hours to record.
Yep.
Another hour and a half, 2 hours to edit. So it takes almost a full day.
Yeah.
To produce one episode of this thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's basically
think about it like
a part.
Well, and then you also have to pull images, and then you have to do all the post-production stuff where you're queuing it up to go out to the things. And
Yeah. I definitely spend some time on Libsyn every week, making sure that it's going to go out correct.
And swearing.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'm swearing.
Amanda's least favorite thing is months with 5 Fridays.
Yes, it really, really is, because you know what? I just upgraded the plan because I was like, fuck this. We're probably going to have 3 of these in the year of 2020 because of the extra day in February.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyway, 5 Fridays means that we don't have enough storage space for our plan. So I just had to upgrade our plan. And so bye more money. And that's, in these coming months, we're hoping to reach out to you guys as listeners. And if you're liking the show, we definitely want you to keep passing it on to people, because the more listeners we have, the more we'll be able to get perhaps some corporate sponsorship. But we're definitely really mulling around the idea of doing a Patreon, or a Patreon, whichever. Some people say Patreon, some people say Patreon. I think it's Patreon, but I've heard people say Patreon, and I was like, I don't think that's right. It's like you're a patron, right?
Yes.
I don't understand why people say Patreon, but it's not a Patronus, which is why I think people say that. But in any case, eventually, I think we might reach out to people to see if we can do that.
It's funny, when you said Patreon, the word that comes to my mind is patrician. Which is weird.
Like,
yeah.
From what,
and we definitely put
Greco-Roman?
in some time on how to correctly pronounce words, especially when they're not in our own.
Our next episode.
Language.
Technically, it will have been episode 49. Oh, it's gonna be a rough one for me. It's more French people.
Ooh,
I cannot do French pronunciations, as we all learned the hard way.
Yes. Amanda knows when I'm editing the episode because I will text her.
Yes.
With questions or what the fucks or
general information like, hey, do you know that 2 point? 2.4 million is actually this now. And I'm like, cool. It's Tuesday. I don't even remember what we're talking about.
Yeah. What is the most rewarding thing about doing the podcast?
That people listen.
Yeah.
And that they actually are enjoying it. Because I'll have people, I've got friends that will tell me, oh, I really liked that episode. They'll text me when they're listening to it and, oh my gosh, that was so funny. And yes, I also relate to that or identify with that, or that people think that we're funny too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a great.
I like the feedback. The most rewarding for me is the feedback.
Yeah,
you guys actually are hilarious. Like I will die laughing editing it. Although some of the stuff I'm laughing at never makes it to
I
the
know.
episode. So, and then sometimes it makes it to the very end.
Yeah, I like the little Easter eggs. Sometimes.
Yeah, I know. Lately, you guys have been really tight.
I know.
Like on your startup, so you're like, when you hit go, you're ready to go. And normally, when you guys were trying to get it together, was when all those funny little bits would happen.
You mean we haven't been entirely professional every single episode? I would say for sure our listeners. That's the best. I mean, like, nobody starts a podcast so that no one listens, right? So I love having people listen, but I would say that like lately we've had a lot more interaction with our listeners on social media, where they've been like posting comments about, hey, I really enjoyed this episode. Like people we don't know. So it's always really cool when it's not somebody we don't personally know.
True.
And I just think that that's great. I love having people like actually care about what we're doing because we care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard sometimes to think you're just sort of yelling into a void that no one's listening to. So we really appreciate listeners and people who pass our stuff on to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also say for me, the stories.
Yes. The ladies.
Yeah. Like I can't even fathom, like we're 50 episodes in and that means we're 100 women in.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many more stories to tell. And that is unfathomable that like we're still uncovering the first like woman who did this thing we should all know about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's still all of those people that we haven't yet discussed. And that's one, both wild and two, incredibly exhilarating.
Mm-hmm. It is. I think it's kind of, for me as well, rewarding to kind of take that power back of when I was in school, these women's accomplishments were not offered to me. And now as myself and with my best friend, I can start learning about this and have these women in my lives and learn from what they've done and kind of pull little pieces from each one. So I had to learn about all those fucking
Dudes.
White men on the wall, you know, that were in front of me for all that time. It's like, I didn't get what I've gotten from this.
Yeah, there's still women that I'm positively shocked that I did not hear about in history class. You know, like Frances Perkins is one.
I was just going to say, I had made a note on the CJ Walker question that like that had been one of my personal favorite episodes because I just thought, I was like, man, what an incredible two people that you really haven't heard of. Even if you'd heard of a Perkins thing, you didn't have any idea that it was this incredible person behind it.
Yeah, who was like the architect of basically every New Deal program that we still use. That was
a crazy story.
I still don't understand how that isn't. I remember learning about the New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a mention in my history books and in my history class that was created by her.
That should be a course.
Yeah.
That should be in the classroom.
And the other one I think of is Patsy Mink, who was also the architect of one of the most important educational laws. I am a teacher with a master's degree, and her name was never mentioned in all of my education classes. And she was the architect of Title IX, which is what allows girls to play sports.
Mm-hmm.
That is, to me, why we do the podcast. Because at least we're talking about it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I think stories like those are also a good example that those are people who weren't setting out to accomplish something great. Like some of these people were definitely trying to make a splash, and those were, relatively normal people just doing their job and just committed to making a difference. And I think it's a good lesson to learn that sometimes just showing up to your job and trying to be good at it and trying to move, the ball forward a little bit, can have impacts that you'll never know until, down the road, somebody else will be like, man, that person who was just showing up to their job every day really killed it.
Yeah.
What is something you wish you had known at the start of this process?
Huh.
Like now that you've done 50 of these, what is something that you wish you had known on episode 1?
I mean, obviously, I wish we could go back and make episode 1 tighter, smoother, louder, everything that we are now. Yeah, that's number one, is like, I wish that we had been better in terms of like the actual quality at the start. Because I think one of the things we're struggling against now is that people will often come to our show new and they'll just only listen to episode 1 and never make it beyond that. And episode 1 is pretty rough. And I've considered just like taking it down because of that, because it's really hard to have people be introduced to your show at the roughest point. And I mean, we got better every single episode. And that's a little bit of a bummer that I see every single month when I look at our stats. We'll just have this huge influx of people that come to episode 1 and then they don't come anywhere else. I'm like, damn it.
Just hold on.
Just give it one more shot. Try it episode 4.
We should put a disclaimer there. Just go to episode 4.
I know. I think about like sometimes just recording a little thing that says, hey, everybody, thanks for checking in on episode 1. This is our roughest episode. We hope that you come back and check out another one.
I think that would definitely work. What's one thing I wish I would have known? That one's kind of stumping me. That it was actually going to be good. Because when I came into this, man, that first time we tried to record, I was like, this is going to be a fucking nightmare. I was like, I'm terrible. I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. And then like realizing, oh, wait, yes, I can. Yeah. I wish I would have had a little bit more confidence in that.
I have some questions for Rita.
All right.
Ooh. Yes.
I think first off, I mean, Lucas already asked like what resonated with you the most, but I want to ask you what woman that you've researched and we've talked about, what woman was, and it could be one of mine too. What one was for you the most challenging?
Challenging as in like processing her story?
Whatever you think is challenging.
Yayoi Kusama. Her battle with her mental illness, her tragic childhood, the fact that people just stole her art left and right and left and right. And she was trying so hard. And I bet it was very scary for her because in her own mind, she was seeing something totally different than the real world was seeing. I think it was so unfair. And it was hard for me her story really stuck in my head. It was really hard for me to get over that of what had happened to her.
Yeah, I think I put a content warning on that one because that whole idea of what happened when she was a child, which was instituted by her mother. Yeah, that was real weird.
That's the part that really, like, I guess I would say hurt me because as a parent, the biggest thing you're supposed to do is you're supposed to protect that child. And I know that there's outside forces that will sometimes make that not a reality, but she was doing it to her child. And I don't understand that. And that's fucking terrible. And this wonderful, beautiful, creative person who's just trying to, just sitting in a field of flowers, just trying to
make sense of the world.
Make sense of the world, yeah. And she, in the end, I'm so happy that her art is now being recognized. And her stuff is just amazing.
It's so cool.
It's mind-blowing.
My next question.
Okay.
Is there anyone's story that you've covered that you were like afterwards, like, ugh, yeah, I guess. Like you were just kind of meh about, or maybe you didn't like it.
That I didn't like it? Probably Carisi.
Is it
Caress or
Caress?
yeah. See, I can't even get her name right. Clitoris. Yeah,
Clitoris.
it was Clitoris.
Clitoris Crosby? Is that her name?
Yeah, because I thought it was like I was starting off with a basis of like, oh, she's inventor of like a very important garment that's in everyday women's lives, and just like she ended up being just such a shit show, and just throwing her money away and throwing her money around, and bad choices left and right. I just, in the end, didn't really appreciate her.
You didn't like her.
I didn't like her, but I did it anyway because it is an interesting story. You know, I don't get to write history. I'm just sharing it.
I see. I have a different take on her story. So I don't wear bras, so that was unimportant to me. But I did think that her choosing to live a lifestyle that is still not accepted in the mainstream and to go against. And I understand that part of that comes with an incredible amount of privilege. Like if you're wealthy and white, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
And even 100 years ago, and these days it's sort of the same thing. Like, you know, if you have enough dollars, nobody cares what you do. But when people do what feels right and true to them, even if it's gonna get them scorn, I'm like, you do you, man. Again, if everybody involves a consenting adult, who cares?
True.
Although, isn't she the one who had the black boyfriend that she got in trouble?
Yeah.
So I think she didn't always do something that like was necessarily consensual. Like he didn't consent to her making him a target.
Yeah, it was. I feel like
that's right.
the real threat there was not real for her.
Yeah.
But he's the one that would.
Right. He's the one that paid the.
And didn't I tell the story about how Chelsea Handler
Yes, we did talk
had that
about
experience where in high school she and her black boyfriend were always doing shit they shouldn't be doing and got pulled over a lot, and like she just got to walk away and he ended up in jail.
Yeah.
Like, and to this day she just thinks, oh well, he like until recently, very recently, she was just like, oh, he was unlucky. No, bitch, it was racism.
Yeah.
It's institutional. And to have actually been her, you know, a 16-year-old girl and still in the position, in that moment, seeing with her own two eyes that she's getting off for the same crime that he's getting arrested for, and not recognizing that that was because he was black is just unfathomable to me sometimes. Like, how are you that blind to the way the world works?
Because she's blonde. She's white.
I know. And I think that that's the frustration you had with Cress Crosby's story, is that was kind of the way she went through life.
Mm-hmm. It was a flippant.
Yeah. As long as it didn't harm her, who cares who else had the who else like got the fallout from her actions.
Mm-hmm. So was there anybody that you've done that kind of got your blood boiling a little bit, but you pushed through it?
I'm sure there is. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I know there was somebody I was like, when I asked the question, I had somebody in my head. And I don't remember. I got really like sidetracked with like Chelsea Handler.
Chelsea Handler just blew everything out of your brain.
See, I would think, knowing you, that you would definitely get to a point in researching somebody where you're like, oh, fuck you, like, and bail on it before you would go through and do the rest of the work.
That actually, I do have a story about that. So I'm going to ask Rita, and then if she has one, has there been anybody where you've gotten almost all the way done with research and writing a script and then just bailed on them? Like, I'm not covering this person?
I think I was doing the woman who was the first elected president of Norway. And I was like going through her stuff, and it was just very
dry. Yeah.
So I was like, no.
I think that's the only thing that I've had a couple of times where I've been like, this person's kind of dry.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and not disregarding the accomplishments, but it's like I wanted more.
Oh, I definitely, that's the person I was thinking of. I would say that the one person that I was like, was the screenwriter that I talked about, who was the writer, and she lived in India for a while. She was Jewish.
Oh, and then she came, yeah.
She went back to the United States.
What was her name?
story was pretty dull.
You thought so?
I thought so.
Yeah.
I really liked what she did,
Mm.
and she was the first woman to win an Oscar for writing. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, her story was a little dull.
It's a
little
toasty,
lackluster for a podcast episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is somebody I did like. I still have a mostly done script.
Really?
But never want to do on this show.
Who is it?
Have you heard of Ma Barker?
Oh, yeah.
Barker.
She was a mobster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's like basically the who in the Goonies,
Mhm.
the mobster mom is loosely based on
Mrs.
Ma Barker.
Fratelli.
Yeah, Mrs. Fratelli is loosely based. And that, first off, that show was my fucking favorite movie of all time when I was a kid.
Yes.
I mean, I loved it so much that when my mom got Abby and I a bed and breakfast gift certificate that we could use at any of these like participating locations, we went to Astoria, Oregon, and I went and did the Goonies tour.
Oh, yes, please.
So I was like so stoked because it was shortly after I had done the Fool and Devi one that I started. I was like, I really want to do another criminal. Like, I think women who've done crimes are like become majorly known for being criminals. That's kind of fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Because sexism and patriarchy works even for bad women. They still don't get recognized, right? So she was put on the FBI's like top 10 most wanted list. Her sons were these mobsters, and supposedly the line that like I think J. Edgar Hoover pushed was that she was the mastermind. She was the brains behind this whole thing. And I was like, this is fantastic. I'm so excited. And then once I really got into the research, he basically just said that so that it would get noticed, and that she really had nothing to do with it and ended up getting murdered in the end by the FBI.
Yikes.
Because they wanted an excuse to, like, they basically blew up the whole family and they wanted an excuse to get away with it.
Jeez.
It was really fucked up. And I was like, okay, first of all, she really wasn't the criminal everybody said. She was probably just an idiot old woman who went along with what her kids did. And I was like, well, I can think of 1,000 women that I know growing up in a small town in Montana that would have been in the same situation where they weren't going to disown their children, even though their children were criminals. And then to have yourself get roped into that without your consent and have like being on the top 10 most wanted list for the FBI, like that's a huge fucking deal.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that story.
Wow.
Because it's just a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, because like when it ends, you're like, okay, then where do we go from here? I just brought the whole entire room down.
Yeah. I've also wanted to do like a serial killer because I really love true crime. But
So I tried that too, and it's a hard story to tell.
Almost every serial killer that's a woman kills children. And no one wants a podcast about children being killed.
I would be very upset.
Especially not like a feminist one.
Yes, we're not going to go there.
It's not cool.
Yeah.
So I just haven't found the right criminal to talk about.
That is hilarious. So Lucas, for you, is there a lady that stood out for you?
I mean, yeah, a lot of the stories have, it's been really illuminating for me to get to be the first person that listens to every episode. Sometimes they stick more than others.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I have headphones on and I'm just listening for one of you to burp or go quiet for too long. But yeah, again, it depends. Like it goes back and forth, and I have a hard time recalling all 100 of them.
I mean, there's a lot, to go through.
Yeah, that as part of and it speaks to the process of the podcast. I get referred to as an editor, but I know when I think of an editor, I think of like a film or a book editor, somebody who actually makes content decisions and is like, oh, we're going to cut this out, we're going to do that. And that is not what I do at all. I think maybe twice have I said, hey, I'm cutting this out. Like, this is just not, like, this tangent went on too long or something, and it loses the focus. And so generally, I'm just here to clean up mouth noises and shorten pauses. And which is kind of funny, but it's also, I was thinking about this today while I was getting ready to come over here. I was like, it's where being a musician pays off, because when there's a pause, I have to go, okay, is that too long? Is it long enough? Was there a reason you took that pause? And then it's like, how much do I shorten it so that it doesn't end up being awkward, but still conveys that, you, in retelling the story, took a moment to pause for whatever reason and reflect, and whether it was to give it more emphasis or to collect your thoughts or whatever. And so that's more of the kind of decisions I make, is how to keep the flow and try and make sure the conversation feels natural and doesn't get too much like, oh, let's just eliminate all the dead space.
Yeah.
And weird noises, because that's not my job. And I very much try to stay out of content decisions at all. I'm like, that's not, Mr. White Guy is not going to tell these two what to talk about or make decisions about what to cut out of their conversation. That is just not how we're doing this thing. So.
And I think we both occasionally texted you and been like, so upon reflection, can you please cut out this section?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've definitely done that.
Yeah, that one I'm happy, perfect, great. But
yeah,
I just wanted to, I was like, I wonder if listeners, what do they think I do? They don't think I do anything. They don't care. But like, that is actually what I do, is to listen and make sure that it sounds okay and that there aren't too many weird extra noises, and that that's the thing I think about most of it, is how to make sure it stays feeling natural and fresh, like you're just sitting with two people that are having a conversation, rather than just, let's recite all the facts and get them all, so.
Yep.
I think when we're tired, I'll notice that we'll just read the facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why we moved away from ever trying again to do more than one episode in a day. It was just like, by the time we got to that second episode, we were drained of any conversation. We had nothing to say to each other.
Yeah, because we talk before we record, and then we record and we talk even more. And so doing a second one, we're just like, so
I got nothing. Let's just get this show on the road.
And I can tell when you guys are not, when you weren't feeling it necessarily that day, because there's a lot more, like, you're not as careful about not making weird noises, or like you can kind of feel it. It was like, oh yeah, they were just not really feeling that one today.
I want Rita to ask her question of you again, because you didn't answer it.
What was the question? Oh, whether somebody resonated?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you can remember that resonated with you, or her story kind of stuck?
Who's that story really? I mean, again, I liked Annie Londonderry.
That was a fun story, the adventure that she went on.
Yeah. Like, she was the living embodiment of the word moxie.
That's a great way to describe her.
Yeah. So I liked that one. I mean, it's hard because there's something to get from all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think
it's hard to narrow that down.
One of my favorite moments ever in all of these episodes that we've done is when we talked about bunny bees and Amanda's crackhead obsession with Luden's cough drops. I actually Googled that and found a Luden's cough drop t-shirt.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that is incredible. I don't even remember what episode that was.
I don't either. I actually went digging for it, and I can't remember what episode that's on. But we were loopy that day. It was
Yeah.
the day where we were just giggling and laughing.
Oh, I think later on I like texted Lucas and I was like, we were laughing too much. And he was like, I enjoyed that. Yeah. How about that's the last question. How about what is a moment that didn't have to do with one of the women that you're like, oh, I'm so glad that happened in the show. That was funny or that was great or that was moving or whatever.
I love the bunny bee moment because I learn little things about Amanda each time we get together. And that was just an insanely hilarious story. She convinced other children that bunny bees were real.
Oh, that's right. Now I was like,
For the better part of an entire school year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in exchange for Luden's cough drops, she would show them where they were.
Yes. And some
fucking
of them
evil.
believed that. They're like, I saw them too. I'm like, what? You definitely didn't see that.
That was probably one of my favorite moments because that really stuck with me.
The one that I cracked up the most about, and then I don't know if it ever saw the light of day, but took the part that we cut out, and I cracked up all 5 times I listened to that too. Was Rita trying to say exhibition?
That's what I was going to say.
Exhibition.
Exhibition.
It's exhibition, everybody.
Exhibition. I couldn't say it.
I still have that clip just saved.
Oh.
So I think we should definitely include it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we should definitely edit it in.
Right now.
Yes.
She played exhibition. Start that over. Exhibition. Like exhibition.
Oh my God, I want that to be a real word that we say now. I went to the exhibition.
Your face when you said that was awesome. We'll call it that now. The exhibition. Okay. Sorry. Oh, now I'm crying. Okay. So she played an exhibition. Exhibition? How do you say it?
Exhibition. But I think it all.
But I couldn't say root or route. Fuck.
The exhibition.
She played exhibition matches. No! She played matches.
Exhibition.
I'm so sorry, Lucas. Welcome to my life. God damn it.
It's because we said it wrong once and now you're just always going to say it wrong.
So she started playing matches for money.
You're just going to skip it all together.
I can't say it.
Oh, okay.
I can't say it. I won't say it.
Oh, Chewbacca over there.
God. Exhibition. She played exhibition match. I can't say it. I can't say it, Amanda. I can't do it.
Just skip the word.
Oh, alrighty. I'm going to skip it all together. For all the listeners out there, it's a hard word.
It is. It's a difficult word. We've all come to learn now how difficult it is for you. My fucking question and I didn't have an answer. I think some of my favorite moments are when I've gotten so caught up in telling someone's story that I became like emotional about it. And the most recent one that happened for me was Margaret McFarland, which totally took me by surprise because I thought her story was going to be a little bit dull. And I ended up really enjoying telling about it.
You got a little teary-eyed when you were telling that one.
Yeah, and it came out of nowhere. Like it sort of surprised me because it wasn't a particularly sad or tragic or anything like that. Like it's just, I thought at that very moment, it all came crashing into me how important it is that children are able to express themselves and to understand the complexities of humanity and of life. And that this woman devoted her life to making sure that children were heard and then influenced a man that literally defined my childhood. And I just suddenly became very overwhelmed with this idea that like, here's a woman who like, I felt like Mr. Rogers was my grandfather. Like, I thought he was my actual grandfather, you know? And basically that would have made her my grandmother. And I never had a grandmother. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, everyone,
50 episodes.
50 motherfucking episodes.
Here's to another 50.
Here's to another 50 and more. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Till next time, guys.
And we have to thank Jennifer Finch.
Of L7.
And Lucas.
And Lucas, who's sitting right in front of us.
Oh, hey.
And thank you for listening, and keep listening, please. And we hope you enjoyed our special little 50th episode. And we look forward to doing more.
Cheers.